Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to the 31 Days of Horror. This is my 1950s versus 1960s series at Dungeon Video. I'm Kurt, and this week we have from 1966, once again directed by Terence Fisher, Dracula, Prince of Darkness. A prologue replays the final scenes from Dracula in which Dr. Van Helsing destroys Count Dracula by sunlight and eliminating his cult. The only thing that remains are Dracula's remains. The main story begins as Father Sandor prevents local authorities from disposing of a woman's corpse as if it were a vampire. Right. Sandor chastises the priest for perpetuating the fear of vampirism and reminds him that Dracula was destroyed over 10 years ago. Sandor visits ins and outs and warns 4 English tourists, the Kents, not to visit Carlsbad. They ignore his advice. As night approaches, the Kents find themselves abandoned by their fear-stricken coach driver 2 kilometers from Carlsbad, in view of Dracula's castle. A driverless carriage takes them to the castle, where they find a dining table set for 4 people and their bags unpacked in the bedrooms. A servant named Clove explains that his master, the late Count Dracula, has ordered that the castle should always be ready to welcome strangers. After dinner, the Kents settle in their rooms. Later that night, Alan investigates a noise and follows Clove to the crypt, where Clove kills him and mixes his blood with Dracula's ashes, reviving the Count. Clove entices Helen to the crypt, where she becomes Dracula's first victim. Okay, so that is the main plot of the story, and I'd just like to say Christopher Lee's dialogue was, he refused to say any dialogue in this movie because he thought it was stupid. I think one of the lines was that I am the apocalypse, so he just said, look, I'll do the movie, I'm just going to act, but there'll be no dialogue, and he doesn't say a word in this movie. Though that doesn't take away from him being absolutely fantastic in this movie. Lee is a menacing phenom. You can just tell he comes into his own as Dracula, and he is once again fantastic. Also, another person that steals the show is priest Andrew Keir. Andrew Keir, who plays Father Sandor, plays a great doomsayer and a figure of authority. Bud Tingle, who is an Australian legend. It's good to see him young, youthful, and in a Hammer movie. Francis Matthews, Charles Kent, from The Revenge of Frankenstein, playing Dr. Hans, is also in this movie. And I really do like the resurrection. A body's hung upside down. You can see it dripping. The blood's dripping into the crypt, which resurrects Dracula. And you can see that at the top of animation, which I think they've done that really well in the horror of Dracula. The previous movie, nothing feels tacky. It feels very fitting and appropriate for Dracula's resurrection. So that's really great writing there. And Barbara Shelley in this movie, who's Dracula's first victim, Helen, is as beautiful as ever. She's just, once she's on the screen, she's very easy on the eyes. Though I feel like this movie is missing Horror of Dracula's atmosphere and allure. I think there was a little bit more better lighting, a little bit better cinematography in the first Dracula movie, though it's not too bad in this movie. To me personally, some of the scenes kind of drag. It feels like it's just following the motions of a Dracula movie, and Christopher Lee not having dialogue kind of hurts it, but he's still really good to watch on screen. And Christopher Lee does come into his own. He owns these Dracula movies. Previously Bela Lugosi kind of became like a trope, and he became like a little bit of a cliche. But I think Christopher Lee breathed new life into Dracula. And he's almost like an unstoppable beast. Like, he has this Jaws type of attitude. His objective is to ravage women in his path and kill anyone in his way. He has no goal but total domination over his dominion and everything surrounding it. The village is scared, and you can see that this is actually really terrifying Dracula. If you put yourself into those shoes, Christopher Lee, who I think he was like 6 something, he was really tall, or even 7 foot, I'm not too sure, but he was massive, and you can tell he's just a titan. He's just overpowering. You can tell in every scene, and it would scare the shit out of you if this guy came at you. So on that note, he's still done really well, and I really do respect the fact that if he didn't agree with the dialogue or the writing, hey, I'm going to do the movie because I like Dracula. It's my role. I own the Hammer Dracula, but I'm not going to do any dialogue. I respect that. I really do like that. And he kind of breathes new life into from the 50s to the 70s as this Dracula. It's him. He is Dracula. Christopher Lee is Dracula, and he just keeps getting better and better in the movies to come. But
I love watching scary movies while cuddled up with my delicious chocolate cereal, Count Chocula.
Switch to something better, you chocoloon. My delicious strawberry-flavored Frankenberry.
Tune in, Frank. Count Chocula has chocolate marshmallows.
Wrong channel, Choc. Frankenberry has delicious strawberry-flavored marshmallows.
Kids love Count Chocula.
Kids love Frankenberry. And I love their commercials. You can enjoy this nutritious breakfast with Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
Isn't this amazing? Happens everywhere we go. Cats just naturally drawn to Johnny Cat.
That's right, because it's long-lasting and absorbs odor. Johnny Cat's the best-selling litter in the West.
All right, little critters, let's move them out.
Johnny Cat, the litter that won the West.
like about Dracula, and especially in Dracula in the Hammer movies, he's always resurrected in a new and interesting way. And you can see the resurrection in a lot of the 80s slasher movies. It's a little bit ridiculous, and we kind of go with it, but they're not too bad, I don't think, especially this resurrection and the rest after. Look, I don't really care, but especially when it comes to blood and resurrections and the way it's done in this scene with the body's hanging from the top and the blood's just dripping in, and you can just see a very slow type of reanimation to the corpse. I kind of like that, and it doesn't feel very cheesy or tacky. I think it's very fitting. It's hard for Lee to have a bad performance. He's such a presence on the screen that through movement and eye contact, he steals every scene. Though Father Sandor is also really good. He adds a little bit of levity and humor to some of the scenes. I think there's one scene where he meets the Kents at the bar and he sits behind the fire and he goes, I just got to warm my backside. So Andrew Keir plays a really good Father Sandor, and he's like a doomsayer, like I mentioned before, which is very fitting. And Dracula, Van Helsing before Peter Cushing was a little bit smaller. This Andrew Keir is a big stocky fellow, and he's almost like you feel like he's a soldier priest type of thing, and he carries a gun, and so he's really good in this. Those are the two very positive things, but as for some of the scenes, I kind of feel it drags a little bit, so I'm going to give Dracula Prince of Darkness a 7. I do recommend it. It's still a good Dracula movie. I love Christopher Lee as Dracula, so that's a 7 out of 10. So thanks for watching, guys. If you could please comment, don't hesitate, comment, and please subscribe. This is Kurt from Dungeon Video. Thanks for watching.